Hi, this is Gadi Elkan with Sea League Film News. We're here at the Dallas International Film Festival with the producer and executive producer behind one of the best golf movies I've seen, Tommy's Honor. Keith, if you want to introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. Hi, my name is Keith Bank from Chicago, and pleased to be here at the Dallas Film Festival. I've been working on Tommy's Honor for about 3.5 years and served in the role of producer and executive producer, and excited to share it with film fans around the country.
So how did you get connected to this project? What was it that tied you into this amazing project?
It's not what I do for a living, so I'm in the venture capital business in my real world, in my day job, and a mutual friend called me and said, there was somebody I want you to meet, and I said, what about? And he said, it's about a film project, and I said, that's not what I do. And he called me again and said, I really think you should meet this guy. And the third time I relented and I met with my now producing partner, Jim Kreutzer. He said, just read this book and tell me what you think about it. And I read the book in about 24 hours and thought it was one of the best books I'd ever read, not just golf books, books in general. And I said, what do you need? He said, can you help me pull this together with, all the things that need to go into this? And I said, I'll give it a whirl. And 3.5 years later, here we are.
It is such a engulfing book because it's not necessarily just a golf book. It's so much about family and, the history behind these people involved. And what was it that caught your eye in the book, though, that just was like, okay, I'm hooked? Because when I first read it, I read it really quickly, too. It's amazing how quick of a read it is.
Yeah, to me, it's a universal story. I mean, just so many things between family relationships and father-son. I have a son who plays golf, and we're very close, and we take a lot of golf trips together. And I thought, wow, what a great thing to present to all the fathers and sons around the world. And, Jason Connery, our director, grew up on a golf course with his father, and we did a little behind-the-scenes piece on the making of the movie. We had Jordan Spieth and Sean Spieth dress up in the garb of the Morris era and play. So we're trying to carry through that father-son theme a little bit. But yet there's daughter-in-law, mother-in-law themes in there, and there's a whole bunch of class struggle and trying to better yourself and trying to some of the class struggle stuff was interesting because the main plot line is between Tommy and the gentleman above him, but yet the girl he wanted to marry wasn't good enough for his family, so they were she was a third-class citizen, the Morrises were second-class citizens, and then the R&A gentlemen were the first-class citizens. So some interesting things like that really caught my eye.
I was fascinated by that history of the R&A because I think a lot of people think of, yes, golf as maybe a sport for the wealthy, but I don't think they ever thought that it was based on, only certain wealthy, only the wealthiest of wealthies were able to play the game, and what the Morris family was able to do in creating this legacy and being successful in golf completely changed everything. It's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, again, they started out, and old Tom started as the apprentice to a golf ball maker, then a club maker, then became the caddy master and greenskeeper and had all these other jobs and eventually designed golf courses. And, his son could have very easily followed in his footsteps, but he really didn't want to do that. And young Tom was really the first professional athlete of all time, the first guy that did that for a living, didn't have another job, a touring professional, whereas his dad had 8 other jobs in addition to playing in all these golf tournaments. So, very, very interesting.
So, being a golfer, where have you gotten to play? I mean, what are some of your favorite courses that you've been able to do?
So I'm a bit of a nut job. I am trying to play both the World Top 100 courses and the U.S. Top 100 courses, and I've got 99 of the U.S. 100 done and 70 of the World Top 100 done. So
what are you missing?
Take one guess.
Is it?
A tournament's being played there next week.
Augusta
National.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Well, you can get practice, well, maybe not this weekend, but wow, so you're just missing Augusta. That's crazy.
Yeah, so I love the game. I didn't pick it up till later in life. I played team sports all growing up, and as an adult I picked up golf due to a couple of reasons. One, I've had 12 orthopedic surgeries and can't run and do all the sports I used to do, and 2, it's a great game that you can play the rest of your life, hopefully, if you stay healthy. And it's great for business, it's great for friendship. I've met so many great people through the years, through golf travels and places I've played, and it's great for going on trips with your family, with buddies. To me, it's the best game there is.
What was it like? Can you talk about, I guess, where you guys got to film and the golf courses over there, and how much time did you get to have, in those different areas, in those different places, and were you able to be a part of a lot of it?
We were moving pretty quick. We shot the film in 33 days, and we had half 5-day weeks and half 6-day weeks, so we were moving at a pretty good clip. But when we had the longer weekends, we managed to sneak out and play a few rounds, and I think I played 10 rounds while I was over there for the 2.5 months while I was over there. And you just enjoyed meeting all the locals and getting paired up with people from there. And I had never really lived in a foreign country before. I'd traveled and taken vacations and been places for business. But when you are somewhere for 2.5 months and really get to know the landscape and the people and you live there, I found that to be very culturally exciting for myself.
It's really cool that Jordan was able to be a part of this, and Lee in his introduction last night brought that up, that the Spieth family has been very behind this film, and the fact that you guys got to do something with father and son. Can you talk a little bit about how golfers can obviously grow attached to this, but that can help expand the movie and showcase it more, with people
Sure.
like Jordan behind the film?
Sure, and not just Jordan. A lot of golfing icons have seen the film and been helped by Jim Nantz, the voice of the Masters, and gave us an unbelievable quote and just loves the film. And Ben Crenshaw, has watched it several times and loves the film, and many other people that are in and around the game and people that have, been over there, played over there, really relate to it. And again, I think that whole historical element that really most people don't know much about, these people do this for their livelihood, and a lot of them didn't really know kind of how it all started and evolved. And I think a lot of aha moments, a lot of eyes have been opened.
Now, you kind of gave us a little bit of a sneak peek when you came in that the golf instructor for you guys, for the talent on the film, is someone connected very much to Scottish history, as one of the sixth golf instructor for the R&A?
Yeah, so Jim Farmer is the honorary head professional at the R&A. He was also the Scottish national golf team coach, and really just understands the history incredibly well and the derivation of the swing. And when we were looking for someone to work with our actors, so our two lead actors, neither had ever touched a golf club before in their life. And we said, if we were going to make this film, it's got to be authentic. We're not going to have a bunch of people trying to be in a sports or golf movie and look like they've never touched a club before, which they hadn't. And I think Jim just did an amazing job getting them not only to learn how to swing the club to look believable on screen, but also swinging it the way they swang back then, because it was a markedly different swing. The equipment was markedly different, and I think they captured it really well. I mean, I've had a lot of modern day touring pros try to hit these hickory clubs, and they are not easy. I remember Jordan Spieth, I think, he said, I just gained a little more respect for those boys back in the day after trying to do this. And, so that was kind of fun and interesting and neat to see.
That's such a wonderful part of the film, is seeing them create those hickory clubs and the balls. The coating of the balls was really special, because I think I've seen modern versions of how they make the golf clubs of today, but I've never even seen or heard all what they had to do to make those old-timey clubs, and that's fascinating on its own self.
Yeah, the clubs and the balls are really a kind of thing into itself. So young Tom was an apprentice to a guy named Alan Robertson, and they were playing at the time with a feathery golf ball. It was basically a leather cover stuffed with goose feathers, and they would stuff it tight. And then when we began our movie is when the gutta percha ball just came into being. And the gutta percha ball was rubber. It comes from a tree, and it's poured into a mold and pressed together. But it's like hitting a rock. It's like hitting a marble. It's not like golf balls today. And originally they were smooth, like a pool ball, and eventually they realized scoring it would make it more aerodynamic, and so they eventually put lines in it. Then there became lines in two different directions, and nowadays obviously balls have dimples in them and they're very aerodynamic. But it was very challenging to hit both the clubs and the balls.
You even got into just the history of the backspin and the ability of that to be completely impactful of the game, and going when he hits it off the rock face. I mean, that people never done that before. I mean, obviously they had done a lot at that time, but there's so much innovation in watching this film for the modern game. It was fascinating just watching them play the game. The rope sequence,
yes,
is one of my favorite moments, because I didn't know where the hell that came from, but now we know.
Yeah, it was a raucous game back then. There was it was all around gambling, and there was drinking involved, and the fans were all basically betting on the matches. It was one town pitted against another town, and sometimes it got rowdy. And so in order to keep the fans from being on top of the players, they used ropes to hold them back. And it's a little different than the ropes that are in the modern golf tournament, but that was kind of where it started.
And there's the sequence where they have to wait for the horses. I think that's such a great moment.
That's at Musselburgh, which is the oldest golf course in the world, and it still is like that. There's a 9-hole golf course inside the horse racing track, and they still run horses there, and they still play golf there. As a matter of fact, it was just announced a couple of weeks ago they're going to do a multi-million-dollar renovation to the golf course itself to try to bring it up to more modern standards and try to attract more play. But it's a really, really neat place when you come up there. I don't remember the exact year. I think it was built in the 1600s, if my memory serves me correctly. But really just reeks of history.
It's nice that you also get to touch upon Tommy Sr.'s ability to be so impactful of course making. And there's that great scene where he's plotting out we'll make this a 3, and a smart player would hit it short and do this. With golf courses being created all over the world, especially overseas now, there's so many that are being built. The Chinese, for instance, are building courses like crazy. That's got to be such an interesting dynamic that it's totally connected right now to the way golf courses are expanding like crazy even now today.
Yeah, we weren't able to really bring out all the things that came out in the book because we only had under 2 hours to do this. But I mean, Old Tom was also responsible for a lot of the modern agronomy techniques, the way courses are bunkered, top dressing greens, I mean, all kinds of things, he did, which again, we just didn't have time to bring them all out in the film, and some of them are less interesting than others, but for people that are into it, he was a real innovator.
As far as getting the acting talent that you were able to get, how did that all come about? This is a very well cast film. Obviously Sam being able to be a role in it is kind of showcased, but it's a really interestingly cast, wonderful film of Scottish people, but also just British people in particular. There's a few really fun people that have been cast in this film.
Well, thank you. We took a little bit of a risk with a casting director named Colin Jones, who had worked for some big casting firms, and he was recently started his own agency, and we just felt like he got it. And he's based in London, and just did a fantastic job. And we just put list after list together and auditioned a lot of people. And Jason Connery, the director, kind of knew what he wanted and knew what how he envisioned the characters. And I think the leads are all fantastic, but also the 1,000 extras or so that we got. I just love some of the faces and some of the facial hair and some of the looks. They look weathered and like they would have. You would envision them looking back then. And so I think the film has a very, very authentic look. Jack Loudon, who plays young Tom, is just an incredible talent. I think he's got the it factor and is going to become a big star. Peter Mullen's an iconic Scottish actor, been around forever, not maybe as well known here in the States, but very, very well respected over on the other side of the pond. Ophelia Lovibond is kind of like Jack. She's an up-and-comer. She's in a TV series over here, Elementary, which is quite popular, and she was in Guardians of the Galaxy, and she's got some other upcoming projects. And then Sam Neill is, most people know him for Jurassic Park, but obviously he's been acting for a long time and is, a veteran, and he plays that steely, head of the RNA, and I think he does it with great aplomb.
Yeah, the mutton chops, the red-headed mutton chops are something special. I've got to ask, this film's already been picked up. It's going to have distribution.
It has distribution. We're opening around the country on April 14th. Roadside Attractions, who just got done handling Manchester by the Sea and several other high-profile films. She's been a great partner. They're very, very proactive and really liked the film. And again, it was interesting too. Not a lot of people there were golfers or kind of under, but I think the film has kind of grown on them, and the test screenings have gone really, really well. And I think they saw the same thing we saw, that it's not just a golf film; it's just a good film. So that's been great. And then we've sold rights to various other countries around the world, and the Golf Channel will be having the film for free TV 29 months after the theatrical release, so they'll have it for 10 years, and it's going to be an interesting ride.
Timing-wise, it's almost perfect of when it's being released. I mean, it's the Masters are about to happen, and then you guys are what?
A week after the Masters.
That's perfect. It seems fitting, and for us here at Dallas, it's been such a pleasure. Between Jordan and them all being in Austin last week, and now, transitioning to this here, and the Masters next week, and then boom, the film's out. That's perfect timing, guys. Thank you for what you guys are doing.
You're welcome. And then we're going to release it in the UK right before the Open Championship over there. So we're trying to follow around when interest is peaked for in the particular places, and hopefully it'll result in some good box office for us.
Well, since you've played 99 of the 100, I've got to ask, is there one that just stands out, or is there a hole that, you love?
I don't really have a one. I have, there's so many great courses and so many, a lot of the experiences, who you're with, and whether it's great weather that day and what the ambiance around the clubhouse is. And, there's so many variables that go into it. But, I enjoy them all.
Well, I'll throw you another doozy. My parents are South African, so I'm a big Gary Player fan, and I like all the different South African golfers. But who's some of your favorite golfers?
Well, it's funny you should ask. When my son was very little, we had an amazing experience with Jim Furyk, who was just incredibly nice to my son out of the clear blue, and he became kind of our favorite. And we had the pleasure of having him host our premiere on Monday night at the World Golf Hall of Fame that we did for the first tee. So my son got to meet Jim and spend some time with him and tell him that he was his inspiration for getting interested in golf. I'm a big Steve Stricker fan. I'm a big Jordan Spieth fan. Mainly the guys that are nice guys that are, just really good people in addition to being great golfers.
Wow. Well, Keith, it's been so great to have it here in Dallas, and I know on behalf of DIF, it was a real pleasure being able to showcase this film. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us. We're glad to be here and glad everybody enjoyed it.
Thanks so much.